This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon.com/2headed nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Our story this week picks up where we left off last week.
Broadcasting from the Ziggurat at Omaha and caverns deep below the metro area, it is our pleasure to welcome you to episode 742 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. That is not a made-up number, by the way. I'm your head number one, and my name is Matt Baum.
I'm the internet's Joe Patrick, your head number two, and it's time for another mighty mid-May new comic review show, where we'll review 8 new comics from the last 2 New Comic Wednesdays. After that, we'll set you up with our must-read new comic picks for next week.
And finally, kids, you'll get just a skosh of our Patreon Extra, where the comic pushers are pushing detective comics on a listener looking for a good mystery. But now!
But not that detective comics.
No. Different detective comics. I think you get the gist of it. But now! If you came expecting us to apologize for the jokes we told at the roast of Marvel's NFL Super Pro last week, you came to the wrong place, and it's only going to get more offensive because it's review time in the Ziggurat. Somebody should have told Super Pro what goes on at these things. He's got to have people, right? Come on.
Well, you would think.
As always, our reviews begin with 4 comics from last week, and then we're going to pile on 4 from this week. Each one will be judged with our 3-point rating scale of buy it, skim it, or leave it, which makes about as much sense as the poll I posted on our Discord today. Joe Patrick, what is in the pile this week?
I'm glad that you acknowledge it.
We'll acknowledge it when we get to the actual source.
Sure. We've got some prime summer blockbuster action hitting the shelves this week, Matt, featuring DC's first all-ages Black Label book featuring Damien through the vision of Junie Ba.
Definitely all ages, right? No question.
I mean, yeah, more or less, I guess. PKJ's crocodile skin boot-wearing killer kid. Or is he? I don't know. The ever-expanding Spawn universe. God, just stop.
Hey, all apologies to the Spawn universe. There is a badge on the front that says Spawn U.
Hickman's take on Doctor Doom and more, but it all starts with a crime story from across the pond.
New comic reviews from the week of Wednesday, May 5th.
All apologies to our British friends, and I did my best to read and understand this one, but as you know, I do not speak British, so I'm going to do my best with Mugshots number 1 from Mad Cave. This is written by Jordan Thomas, cover and art by Chris Matthews. Really nice Fran Gallan and Jacob Phillips variants are out there, too. Letters by Lucas Catoni, and it's 36 pages. It is $4.99. The value that you've come to expect from Mad Cave over the last 10 years. Nice job, guys.
10 years of Mad Cave. Still a boggling statistic.
I know. Here's your solicit. Brighton, UK, 2008. I assume that's a place. The kidnapping of a young woman starts a chain of events that will set con artists, gangsters, killers, and corrupt police on a collision course of violence. Meet John Bannon, a self-proclaimed bastard and loving uncle. In this tale of a family trauma, betrayal, murder, and revenge that threatens to bring the city's whole underworld down. It's a very classic setup. Bad guy, heart of gold, criminal story. But the one thing you got to nail in a story like this, you got to make me like that bad guy. And
I mean, if you've seen a Guy Ritchie movie, you know the score.
Sure. They do it immediately. John is great. He's good looking. He's funny. The bad guys love him. The good guys don't trust him. He's had some trouble with some of the characters in this that obviously is going to haunt him. But it's a really good setup. John's niece disappears. She'd been dating the son of a crime kingpin that John has a history with. And Mom wants John to save her. There's some fun with Mom's husband as well, at his expense, I guess.
Yeah.
I really like the art here, though. And I don't know Lucas Catoni at all. Never met this artist.
No, neither do I.
But he's got kind of this very stripped down, cartoony, sort of Darwin Cook kind of style. And there was sort of a Parker
sort of, or like black and white with like splashes of color, like monochrome style.
Yeah, like it's black, white, and blue in some scenes. Other scenes, it's sort of black, white, and orange. And it works really well. It's another one of those art styles, and I know we say this all the time, where it's deceptively simple, but he's doing a lot with his style. Like, there's this really great flashback panel, and I stuck it in our notes, where John is hearing the story from his sister. You know, my daughter was hanging out with this guy. I know that they've got him, whatever. And in behind him, he's picturing the last time he dealt with this guy who obviously beat the shit out of him for something. So
Yeah.
it's really nice. Mugshots feels familiar in all the best ways, but it's the art style that really brings the story home for me. There's aspects, like I said, Darwin Cook's Parker, mixed with classic Guy Ritchie crime stories. Joe, you brought that up. That makes this comic shine with personality, excellent art, a perfectly paced script. Make Mugshots #1 a solid first issue of what looks to be a really great crime story. We got to do a crime stories. We just did like mysteries and detective stories not too long ago for Comic Pushers. If we're doing crime stories, I would definitely throw this one at somebody. This is a buy it.
Yeah, I really liked it as well. And you're absolutely right with all of the kind of touchstones that it sort of is reminiscent of. It is very reminiscent of kind of peak era Guy Ritchie, you know, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. Yeah. And of Darwin Cook, it calls out with a Darwin Cookian almost glow. Yeah. And of course that gets to me. You know, I love that stuff. This is a buy it for me too. I love a good crime story, and this is, you know, it's British. And so you might have a tough time kind of getting through the language barrier, but you'll get there. I didn't
think this was near as egregious as like some even Hellblazer stuff that I've read. When I say egregious, I mean, you know, thick with British slang.
We are mostly joking, but it will have some, you know, Britishisms.
I guess I mean in the sense that like some people are like, what are they even saying?
I know they're not. It's not so thick with with regional dialect that you won't understand what's happening. Yeah, of course not. Yeah. This is a buy it. It's great. It looks great. I had a really fun time reading it. Well, we already invoked the name of Darwin Cook once in this episode, so we might as well keep it rolling with the Boy Wonder #1 from DC Comics. It's the Black Label imprint. It's written and drawn by Junie Ba. Colors are by Chris O'Halloran. Letters are by Aditya Bidikar. It's 32 pages for $5.99, and here's your solicit.
Long solicit, Jesus.
It's lengthy, yeah. The young prince, Damian Wayne, was raised to be the heir to the fearsome League of Assassins, to follow in the footsteps of his deadly mother, Talia, and the demon's head himself, his grandfather, Ra's al Ghul. But everything changed when his father, the Batman, reclaimed him and brought him back to Gotham City. As Robin, young Damian suddenly discovered he was merely one of a number of princes, preceded in the role by his brothers Nightwing, the Red Hood, and Red Robin. And Damian doesn't care to be merely anything. But when his father is forced to leave the city on urgent business, and a rash of abductions is accompanied by whispers of a demon stalking Gotham's dark alleys, Damian will find himself battling alongside his adoptive brothers, and in the process, learning what the mantle of Robin really means. Visionary writer-artist Junie Ba makes his mark on the timeless story of Batman and Robin, synthesizing the character's complex history into an accessible and heart-rending fairy tale. I wish I had read this before I wrote my review, because I say the word fairy tale multiple times.
It's unavoidable, though. I mean, it's just here.
Quote, "They are, in the best sense of the word, childlike. It is the very essence of the term superhero." End quote. The Boy Wonder #1 opens with this quote by the dearly departed Darwin Cook. So you know that I was all in right off the bat.
I love that, by the way. That's great.
I do too.
It's really good.
Our tale begins with a young boy tied up in an old warehouse after a robbery gone wrong. And in an effort to calm the nerves of his captor, the boy starts telling a story. And from here, the Boy Wonder unfolds like a fairy tale, complete with larger-than-life characters and a sense of childlike wonder.
I think that, okay, so I can have a problem sometimes with this stuff where it's just like, oh, well, this artist is coming in and doing an Elseworlds type story or whatever. Evergreen story, right? But I think when it became obvious that Damien is going to tell me the story, all of it just made sense. You know, I was like, okay, all right, yeah.
You don't find out who the kid is, but
it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
The kid is wearing red and green.
It's not exactly a spoiler. Yeah.
He's not wearing the Damien costume per se, but he's wearing red and green for sure. And he knows an awful lot about Batman.
Yes.
So Juniba manages to craft a story that fits seamlessly in the current Batman era without being beholden to a single ounce of continuity.
Question on that. What were Nightwing and Batgirl talking about then? Because it sounds like they have a baby.
Oh, you know what? Sure. Okay. There. Yes, you're right. There you go.
Okay.
They do mention something about the baby, like talking to the sitter.
I don't think this fits in.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Okay.
I forgot about that. But generally speaking, it's so kind of evergreen. And the way that Juniba tells the story, like everything you need to know about the story, for example, the origin of Nightwing, is delivered with that same sense of whimsical innocence.
Definitely.
That I talked about a second ago.
In fact, I think they should have, quite honestly, I think they should have left that part out with the baby or whatever, because it doesn't, I mean, great, they have a baby, hooray.
Because it does immediately, you're right, it does immediately set it apart.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to. You don't need to do that.
It doesn't need to.
Unless that is going to figure in later on in another issue, which I kind of doubt, but I don't know. We'll see.
I kind of doubt that too. By the time the issue ended, I had also forgotten that there was still a kid tied up somewhere that needed rescuing.
Yeah.
Or does he?
I mean, that's just it. Like, it's not important because we know who it is.
Right. Absolutely incredible art that strikes a balance between the animated series style and Tiny Titans. If you guys know Art Baltazar and Franco's Tiny Titans.
Definitely.
Super childlike, almost crayon looking drawings of the Teen Titans in action. This kind of has that vibe, but it's also slightly more aged up, closer to the Batman animated series.
I'm not going to go that far as Balthazar. I see what you're saying, and I see working.
I think I'm saying strikes a balance between the two.
Yeah, I think this is like definitely just Juniba's style. This is what dude does. And
sure. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it works really well here. But I think Balthazar has a style too, but goes out of his way to make it look more childish, for fun and comedy.
You're right. It looks like child's drawings on purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas this just looks like a guy with a very cartoonish, chunky style.
Yeah. Everything is presented with simplicity, but it's also still full of detail, which is a tough nut to crack.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure. The colors by O'Halloran are beautiful. They perfectly fit in with Juniba's art. The Boy Wonder #1 relies on the idea that the Bat family has been elevated to mythological status, which allows Ba to tell a timeless story that reads more like a beautiful fable. Like, you don't need all of the minute details of their histories. You are presented the broad ideas.
Sure.
And you immediately know, and it immediately works.
Yeah.
Because we all know these characters inside and out.
We don't need to see the pearls hitting the dirt again. We got it.
Yeah, absolutely not. This is a huge buy it. I thought this comic book was incredible.
Yeah, it's a buy it from me too. And it's not just on the level of, well, look, you got to like this guy's style, or you're going to like what he does, or you might not have it. No, it's really accessible to everybody. And his style is kick-ass. Like, he's not giving up any part of his style for Batman, and he's not giving up any part of Batman for his style. You know what I mean? Forcing anything either way.
That's a great way to put it.
It's really well done. It's a buy it. Apparently I was having a crimey-wimey week, so let's continue the theme with Crocodile Black, #1.
Crimey-wimey.
Like
Isn't that like
timey-wimey.
one of the things Doctor Who said?
Yes, it's like
timey-wimey, crimey-wimey.
Exactly. It's just like Doctor Who. This is Crocodile Black #1 from Boom Studios. It's written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, Main cover by Andrea Sorrentino, art by Somnath Pal, colors by Patricio Del Pesce, or Del Pesce, I don't know. Letters by Ramiro Portnoy, 32 pages, $3.99. All apologies to Patricio. Here's your solicit. What makes someone turn to crime, especially in a modern pandemic-riddled dystopia? Danny, a seemingly mundane young man lost in escapism with spiraling lack of control over his life, witnesses something during a delivery job that will change him forever, turning things as dark as the black crocodile skin boots that he can't take his eyes off of. Kids and their crocodile skin boots these days, am I right?
They love them. Kids love crocodile skin boots.
In this criminal thriller from Eisner-nominated writer Philip Kennedy Johnson, who worked on Action Comics, and rising star artist Sam. Here they just call him Sam, I'm not sure why, who worked on Brigands, the morally gray turns to cold-blooded murder. There's some really great timing with the script here. Like, it starts with some brief moments of light dialogue paired with sudden extreme violence. You're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
I see what we're doing here.
Quickly.
Yeah, and there's some really nice art shifts as well, where we see Danny's home life when he's fantasizing as his other self. They do this thing in the art that I really liked, where there's these really nice soft watercolors, right, that are kind of lightly colored when he's home, and then when we start seeing crime scene or him sort of fantasizing, the colors change a little bit, and there's this trick that they do with what looks like a scribble at first that popped up in a kitchen scene where Danny's at home, and I was like, "What the hell is that? Is that a mistake or something?" Don't tell him what it is.
It's a hallucination. It's something that he's seeing. Yeah. 2
pages later, you see it again, and you go, "Oh, okay, this makes sense now."
Yeah.
Right? I thought Danny is really well written, but I guess I'm hoping that there's more to this than a cautionary tale about a kid with a mental health problem, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it needs to be more nuanced than
it's gotta be.
This kid on the spectrum or whatever his issue is,
right,
is horrifically violent.
It's gotta be. Like he has really bad ADHD, and
like to the point. It's to the point. Like I'm so sure that there has to be more to it than what it seems. I think that there's an implication, and forgive me if you already said it or weren't planning on it, you could edit this out. I was looking up his bibliography, so I was distracted. There's an implication that he's the killer. Well, and I think that is obviously false.
I think so. Okay, that's what I kind of think too. There's a buildup.
I think they'll suspect that he's the killer.
Yes, there's a buildup that's happening here. And I definitely think Danny, in a certain scene, I don't want to give anything away, like when he gets crocodile boots, I think that happens. But I think the rest is going to be some kind of fantasy. And I think if you know PKJ's work, you can trust him to do that. I saw some reviews of this that were like, well, this is a damning look at mental health, and I can't believe they just want us to believe.
I don't think that's what we're getting. I don't think that's what we're getting.
Yeah, settle down, everybody. This is the first issue.
I think that this kid has very realistic emotional control issues.
Yeah.
And now he's caught up with something that is outside of his scope.
Right. And he has some trauma in his past.
And that's going to be the story. There's obviously some past family trauma. Like we mentioned earlier, he is hallucinating something.
Yeah.
And he has a history of it, and the other people in his life know about it.
Right. And
so they're like, are you seeing this again? How long have you been seeing this again? Yeah. We should probably adjust your medication.
Like the family's a little one-dimensional, maybe. Like mom and sister are very coddling. Dad's an asshole, and I don't get mental health or whatever, you know.
The dad is, I'm sure that you have as well, and a lot of our listeners have known people either in our own families or in friends' families that have children with severe emotional issues.
Sure.
And how hard that can be on the family and how the family copes with it, whether it's healthy or unhealthy.
Of course. And I don't think this is a bad.
And so it kind of read true to me as far as like what the mom is doing.
No, and I agree. I just think the dad, in the way that he's handled,
the dad was over the top.
Is just there to be like, oh, the mom and sister are trying so hard, and he's obviously had it just came off a little like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I agree with you.
But not terrible either. And I do think Somnath's art really, really good. I love the art. Yeah. He goes from like this very slice of life, everything's normal, to really abstract and strange in the same panel sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it works. It really
And then
works.
It also gets like horrifically violent.
Yeah, and the
like he does a lot of style shifting in this issue, and he handles it very well, I thought.
Yeah. The first issue of Crocodile Black is setting up one of two stories, and I trust PKJ enough to think that it just can't be as obvious as it seems. Even if Danny ends up assuming his killer alter ego, I don't see it coming off as a story damning mental health patients. I just don't.
Yes, I agree.
Somnath's art is gorgeous, and I am looking forward to more of his work. I'm giving this a buy it.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I had no preconceived notions about it. And other than I like Philip Kennedy Johnson as a writer, I enjoyed this. And like you said, it is a complex story with a complicated emotional plot. And he's going to have to really like thread a needle here to tell a story that isn't, like you said, like a stereotypical, like blaming the damaged, blaming the damaged kid
that turned
the messed up kid is the villain,
and now he kills kids around Crystal Lake that try to have sex.
We're past that as a society now, and Johnson knows that.
Yeah, when we learned that Jason was mentally handicapped, it was like, oh wow, that was Hollywood horror at peak sensitivity levels there. Way to go, guys.
Yeah. And so, I'm eager to see where PKJ takes this story. The art is fantastic. I'm giving this a buy it as well.
Yeah, it is a lot of setup. I'll say that, and like doesn't answer much.
Sure.
But I think that's what the story is going for. Stay tuned, right? There's something coming here.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Yeah, you said they're not for me.
In fact, I specifically said I don't have an affinity for Sergio Leone, but I do love Unforgiven.
I recall you saying, I hate Westerns. They're stupid.
That is a goddamn
go ahead,
lie. I
Joe.
didn't say anything of the
sort. Take it away. Sorry, Scotty Young. Sorry, Jorge Corona.
I don't have to take this slander. Of course, we're talking about Ain't No Grave #1 from Image Comics. This was my pick for last week. It's written by Scotty Young with art by Jorge Corona. Colors are by Jean-Francois Bulot. Sorry, Jean-Francois, I tried. Letters and designs are by Nate Picos. It's 40 pages for $5.99. Here is your solicit. Miniseries premiere! Eisner Award-winning writer Scotty Young and Eisner Award-nominated artist Jorge Corona, the team behind the hit series Middle West and The Me You Love in the Dark, are back together with an all-new miniseries, Ain't No Grave.
Middle West, by the way?
Middle West, definitely not a Western.
Ain't no Western, just like
Ain't no Middle. Come on. I think that's the.
Can you stay with me here?
I think that's the subtitle of Volume 1. Middle West: Ain't No Western.
Yes.
This Unforgiven style journey is an original macabre Western fantasy tale for mature readers, told through a Guillermo del Toro-esque lens. Writer put her violent past behind her when she fell in love and became a mother, but that was before she learnt it was all going to be taken away. Now she'll have to pick up her guns once again and ride to kill the one who's behind the threat, which just happens to be death.
I mean, and there is your last page, folks.
I mean, really.
Come on, guys.
The genre-bending adventure begins in this double-sized first issue with 40 pages of story and no ads. To be fair, it's 40 pages of art.
Yeah.
And about 30 pages of story, which, no shade, not a complaint.
Still packed. Come on.
Not a complaint, and I'll talk about that. Like Jonah Hex's Tallulah Black, Ryder is a woman living in the Old West who's anything but a lady. She's left her past behind. She's living this idyllic life with her husband and her daughter, which is, of course, when it all comes crashing down around her. You can see it coming from a mile away. You don't even need to read the solicit to know what's going to happen.
Of course.
We spend the rest of the issue seeing Ryder's punishing trek to the underworld to confront death itself. Ryder's journey is interspersed with scenes that led up to the story's beginning. We begin with her already on the way.
Right.
And then as we go, we see, we learn why she has to leave. We see what her family life is like. We see their tearful goodbye. And I found my heart like breaking with her. It's very effective.
Yeah,
I thought it was really well done.
This is the Unforgiven portion of the story where it's like, you see Clint Eastwood on the farm and whatever, you know, and he's with his kids and he's like, I got to go take care of something, and like leaves a 4-year-old with like pigs, you know, which I love. The Old West, you know.
This comic book is a feast for the eyes. Young doesn't overwrite the script, which allows the extra pages to focus on Jorge Corona's brilliant visual storytelling and breathtaking landscapes. Like, it's just panel after panel of scenic Western backdrop, canyons and valleys and trees. And
it's just beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Very classic Western feel to it as well.
Bulito's colors are a perfect match for the art, of course, and with the way that it is a showcase for those kind of landscapes, almost like pinups. They are individual works of art. Like, we make fun of Maria Levitt for signing every panel in her comic, but this comic, Jorge Corona could have signed almost all the panels in this comic.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. These pages are going to sell. They are beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous stuff.
Yeah. By now, this is their third project together. Well, I don't know if Jorge Corona drew Middle West. I don't think he did.
I don't believe he did.
He did draw the Me You Love in the Dark. So by now, these three work together like a well-oiled machine. They know what they're doing. They are a perfect trio. Ain't No Grave, number 1, is about as different from Young and Corona's previous projects as you can get. As we said, not a Western, but they blend familiar Western and supernatural tropes and make them their own. It hooked me right away. This is a huge buy it. I really loved this comic.
Yeah, fans of the Sixth Gun would love this. It's
Sixth Gun, sure.
Weird, creepy, supernatural Western.
I love a supernatural Western.
I do too. I'm always down. It's totally great, and we're completely wrong. Jorge Corona did draw Middle West. So,
no shit. Okay, great.
He did.
Middle West is one I missed, so I need to go back and fill in the gaps. Yeah,
stunningly gorgeous. There's another two creators when they get together and do something. Just put your money on the table. This is a buy it. Yes.
Well, and with Boulot, I'd say the three of them together are a powerhouse artistic trio.
He is also the colorist on Middle West. So
there you go.
The whole gang back together.
New comic reviews from the week of Wednesday, May 15th.
Let's just turn the camera slightly to the right from Western fantasy and go full fantasy with Heartpiercer, number 1 from Dark Horse, written by Rich Dueck, who has a headshot that makes him look like a very scary heel wrestler. Like he's a big, or maybe a grindcore singer, one of the two. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Cover and art by Gavin Smith. He's not a bad looking guy. I'm not going at his looks here.
Colors, I mean, it's just that he knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing.
It was a choice. Yeah.
Colors by Nicholas Bergdorf. Letters by Justin Bureau. 32 pages, $3.99. And here is your solicit. Atala thought she was saving the world from monsters, but hunting great supernatural beasts brought doom instead. Tricked into killing the last unicorn, betrayed by her lord and left for dead, Atala awakens in a dark world, overrun by nightmares. Broken and ashamed, now Atala seeks revenge and rises to save the world from darkness. There it is. Here's your fantasy plot.
Sure.
It's right there. I like the choice, like we talked about with Akogun, of making your main character a person of color in a fantasy story. We don't see that, let alone a woman, you know? Right?
Right. And you know what? Not the only comic to take a piece, to take a genre and make an unexpected choice. In Ain't No Grave, writer's husband is black.
Yeah.
And so
that's true.
And that's not common for Westerns.
No. There were things I liked here. Like I liked the initial fight with the unicorn. The unicorn's kind of a badass, you know? It's not just like, Mia Farrow is voicing the soft unicorn that's so scared, you know?
There is a familiar kind of storytelling moment in a lot of things where the unicorn, which is normally depicted as this like beautiful creature of magic and wonder. Unicorns are actually nightmare creatures. And this unicorn is awful. It's a nightmare.
Well, let's talk about that because.
Well, I mean, she does attack it.
Let's talk about that because, like, there's a twist here. Obviously, it tells you right in the solicit. She's tricked into killing this creature and it throws the world into doom. And I get it. She's supposed to sort of be in love with the bad guy that tricked her, and he pierces her heart, which he had already pierced because she loved him. But this time he does it
metaphorically,
figuratively, after she has done the dirty job. But it's like, let's just stop real quick. Maybe if I was sent to kill, I don't know, the last giant shitworm, I'd be like, yeah, that thing's bad. We got to take care of it. But you've been sent to kill the last unicorn.
Right? Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, that's fair. It's not like, I need you, please, in order to preserve the safety of the kingdom, I need you to go and slay the last beholder. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It's a unicorn.
And that's just it. And when we get to the unicorn, it's not eating babies. It's just in a pool.
No. I mean, it's not to be trifled with.
Right. But it's just doing it.
But it's also just, kicking
so,
it.
like, part of me was like, well, you didn't see this coming, Atala, huh? Okay.
Yeah. And then the bad guy says, what is a man but a miserable little pile of secrets?
Right.
Stabs her through the heart.
Yeah.
And steals all her gear and casts her down to the entrance of the castle.
And it's just like the whole story is kind of like just devolves into this generic kind of side-scrolling video game fantasy.
It is.
It's like Golden Axe almost, where it's just like the monsters came to the village. The village people are scared. I will save them. Like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. It's like, now she's got to reclaim her power and crawl her way back up to fight the villain once and for all.
And again, like the book is called Heartpiercer, and she doesn't carry a sword. She carries, I guess, what's like a stick, and she.
No, it's the unicorn horn.
Is that what she's got now? But
it's
she had
the
that
thing
before.
that she killed. It's the king that he killed her with.
I don't think that was unicorn horn. Is it?
No. It's the unicorn horn.
All right.
He stabbed her with it, and then when they cast her body down, the horn was still embedded in her heart.
No, you're right.
And she pulls it out, and now she's wielding it like a weapon.
Well, she's not just wielding it; she's piercing hearts with it. Hey,
well, yeah,
I get it. And look, you pair that with some art that I'm not going to say is bad. It's not bad art.
No.
But I will say that I think this artist makes some choices to get like really, really detailed in some panels, and the detail just gets muddy and kind of lost. Like there's some weird looking werewolves. There's a scene where this bird person, no joke intended, but I'm not really sure.
She explodes into a swarm of birds and then coalesces back into a person.
But I had to look at it for a minute.
I mean, it's tricky.
Right. And again, this isn't bad. There's panels that look really good when he's tight on someone's face, or just one person. It looks really good. It's just the art kind of breaks down when there's too much going on in the panel for them. Really
it's
nice.
A little stiff as well.
Yeah, and some of it looks very flat, definitely. Mm-hmm. Really nice coloring on some of these scenes, though, I'll say that. Heartpiercer is a fantasy tale that wants to come off original, but outside of casting a black woman as the main character, the rest is just really well-known fantasy territory. The uneven art really doesn't help the story a whole lot either. I can't see much reason to come back for more. I mean, unless you're just really into generic fantasy. I'm giving this a skim it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like this, but there's nothing like it's not a failure.
No.
So I can't I'm not going to give it a leave it because, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you won't like it.
Sure.
It's just, it is very generic. The art is very clunky.
Yeah.
It is, again, like well detailed. The colors are beautiful, but then when things are put in action, it kind of loses something.
Right. And there's something that some creators can do where it's like you put something on the page and you look at it and go, oh, that's obviously the good guy and that's obviously the bad guy. But then you gently learn like, no, this is just kind of different. It's not what you expected. This is exactly what you expect. This is like you're in the side-scrolling video game, and you literally can't hit the good guys with a sword. You can walk right up to them and try, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
But the things you're supposed to kill, you're obviously supposed to kill.
Right. Like the bad guy looks like a bad guy even before the revelation.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
when she goes back to the guy, the king or whatever he is. And she's like, my love, I've done it. And he's wearing this. He's got slick black long hair and blank eyes. And he's wearing this armor that looks like it's made out of bones.
Right.
Okay.
And then he transforms into something just a little more evil. Not even
like he's got antlers and glowing green eyes. Right.
And I don't want to hear this like whole, oh, well, she was under a spell, because he says out loud. No. He says out loud after he kills her to Bird Person, oh, she never would have gone along with our plan or whatever. So no, she's not under a spell. She just fell in love with an evil dude.
Right. Yeah. She had to die because she would not have been down with him subjugating the kingdom. Right. Yeah. It's a skimming. It's a skimming. We don't need to keep piling on it. We got something else we can pile on instead.
I'm happy to pile on this one. This dude's huge. He can take it.
Yeah, baby.
And I'm talking about the Todd's ego, not Monolith.
It's time to check in with the Spawns U. That's what it's called. That's what it says on the badge. Spawns, 'S, U.
Well, it's his name. I mean, look, his name is all over this book, whether you like it or not.
I mean,
everything's a Spawn.
The apostrophe S just kind of slays me. It's like, just call it the Spawn universe.
Right.
This is from Image. It's Monolith #1. Sorry, I forgot to name the book.
It's from
important. Image Comics. Script and plot are by Sean Lewis. That's how it's credited. It doesn't say written by. It says script and plot by Sean Lewis. Art is by Valerio Giangiordano. Colors are by Ulysses Areola. Letters are by And World Design. It's 24 pages for $2.99. That's an odd figure, isn't it? 24 pages for $2.99. That's kind of unusual.
I get, like, it's the first issue. We want to make it cheaper. Like, all right, hey, let's cut the page count too.
Here's your solicit miniseries premiere. Thanks, Image.
Thanks, Image, I guess.
The origin of the hulking Hellspawn is finally revealed. Spoiler alert. No, it is not. What connection does he have to one of the most savage of his kind, Omega Spawn? Follow his journey from the cosmic depths of Deep Spawn. What?
I don't know.
That's what that says, but that's probably not what that meant. To his first encounter with Al Simmons in this 3-part miniseries. I think they probably meant to type Deep Space, and instead it says Deep Spawn.
Maybe. Or there is some space spawn, deep spawning, because everything is named Spawn in this.
Or
Omega Spawn.
Maybe in the far future of Monolith, everybody talks like the Smurfs, where it's like,
right.
Spawny to meet you.
Yeah.
Right.
Have a spawny day.
Right. Yep.
I got so spawned last night.
We got Omega Spawn. We got Monolith Spawn. We got Spawnette. Yeah. All right. Let me see if I have this straight. Monolith is a hellspawn from the far future in which his kind failed to stop the apocalypse.
This is a thing that happened. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Says.
This is what the comic book is telling me.
Right. And you know what helps with this, Joe? An editor's note. If
any sort of context whatsoever.
Prove it. Just say it happened in Spawn whatever, and I'll go.
Spawn 319.
Thanks, Todd, I'll take your word for it. Right.
He wants to go back in time, presumably to whatever year the Spawn series is currently set in. Didn't we think it was like 2019 or something like that? For some reason, it's set a few years in the past.
I don't think so, because if he goes back to the current time, I think they're alluding to that's when everything got screwed because of the.
But that's when Al Simmons went to Chipotle and then had to fart real bad and then launched a Spawn bubble through time and space.
Right. So maybe he's trying to Terminator this and stop.
Fuck it, dude.
Al? I don't know.
It's not even worth the amount of brain power we're putting into it. So yeah, he does want to Terminator it. He wants to change the past, but instead Instead, this is something I can tell you happens for certain. He spends an entire 1/3 of his miniseries running around trying to get revenge on the Omega Spawn, who is also a Hellspawn, but bad.
I think he's sort of like a Galactus figure, but again,
or a Thanos, maybe. Yeah.
I think it's more than that, because they kind of talk about how he's like a force of nature, right?
But he still just like kind of walks around the space station like you could give him a hug.
And I think
he's a normal size.
I think that's bad writing.
Sure.
Right? Because they tell you one thing.
You know what?
But he's just a monster with a fucking sword on a space station.
Understanding Omega Spawn will do us no good. Because
why does he have a sword on a space station, Joe? He's in space.
Because, Matt, then Gaia, the spirit of the earth, shows up.
I know.
In Deep Spawn.
Right.
Need I remind you, they are in Deep Spawn right now. Yeah. Gaia shows up and tells Monolith to get his shit together, and that's the end of the book.
Pretty much.
It's a confusing mess. It is given precious little context from Sean Lewis's dialogue. There's nothing and no one to root for. This is Sean Lewis, writer of That Texas Blood.
He wrote Above Snakes.
Oh, but Sean Lewis is a known quantity as a writer whose work we have
Above Snakes, which we liked. Yes.
Above Snakes, The Few. Regardless, the writing in this comic book is not good. The art is okay, I guess. It's impressively detailed. Again, though, like Heartpiercer, it is incredibly stiff. Well, it's like Mike Deodato on his worst day, kind of stiff.
And again, there's like a rule that all you're allowed to draw is Todd McFarlane's monsters. Everyone has to look like a Todd McFarlane spawn.
Well, they're spawns. They're hell spawns, right? So
I guess I get that, but like...
Oh, but there's also a lot of like demons and stuff in here.
Every character has to be a spawn? All of them? They all have different spawn names?
Dude, I don't know.
My God, it's so Smurfy. It is, like, seriously.
It's very Smurfy.
I don't know what else to call it.
The figure drawing, it looks like action figures that have been posed for fancy toy photography.
Yeah.
Like there was one in particular where I was like, oh, I can see where if these were toys being posed for an action shot, I could see where you'd have to Photoshop out the fishing line so that you can't see what's making that figure float. It doesn't help that the coloring is just a variety of dingy browns and greens, with the muddy orange skin of Monolith being the only thing that really stands out. And it is also muddy as hell. Todd McFarlane is trying so hard to make Spawn's You materialize. And he's got enough fans that I'm sure that there's a way to make it happen. But books like Monolith, #1, ain't it. I'm giving this a leave it. It sucks.
It's just so blatant that they're trying to flesh something out and there's no meat on the bone. You know what I mean? So they just go for this tropey stuff. Oh, he's a monster that has to figure out if he wants to be a monster. Well, bad news. You've got skulls on your shoulders. You have
you look like Venom and you're from hell.
He has I'm
sorry, my guy.
He has a little skull mohawk. It's just a mohawk of little skulls that runs down his head.
Yeah.
And like when he sees his younger self, when he has his flashback to him as a kid, turns out he was a boy once, cute little boy, and the boy,
human boy,
and the boy hugs him figuratively, and he tears the boy's head off.
Oh yeah, that was so weird. It's like I was actually shocked.
This is the character that we like. Yeah, I'm rooting for him.
He's the hero.
I'm rooting for him to be redeemed. And on top of that, everything he does is narrated by the writer. Like, we're seeing pictures of him fighting. I get it.
By an omniscient, unknown narrator.
I totally get that he's fighting Omega Spawn and it's violent. In the meantime, the narrator is like, but Monolith was baiting him, begging Omega Spawn to follow up so he could lay his trap, then hope Omega would make his mistake first. Like, I can see this, you know, and like part of his plan is getting his skull cracked by Omega Spawn. Like, that's a bad plan, my dude. You know? No, there's
a lot going on here, and none of it is good.
This is a leave it, and I want to say, look, yes, there's some bad writing here. The art is pretty muddy and stuff. I'm not blaming this creative team. They are not given a lot to work with.
I mean,
and they are doing the best they can with this harebrained idea for a universe. We can't just go, the future. There's an alien prison and a giant hellspawn that was part of that hellspawn revolution that I'm not going to tell you where it happened. He's pissed and he's going to do some violent shit. Next episode, more violent shit. That's not a universe, okay?
Yeah.
And giving everyone the same name, oof, that does not help.
Well, I mean, no, this one's Monolith. The other guy was named whatever Rat City Man was named.
I guess.
But you're absolutely right, though. It's like
there's just not enough meat on this bone.
You look like a demon from hell because you are a demon from hell.
Right.
Like, maybe let's just have some perspective.
And I get it. Well, Spawn fan will say, well, Spawn's a demon from hell. We're rooting for him. Spawn does not look this evil. Spawn does not look like a monster truck with skin. Digger. Almost out of gas. Time for more grandparent blood, you know? Like, settle down. God, you guys.
Okay, look, apologies to the creative team. We're not trying to be mean.
No, but it's kind of laughable.
It is what it is.
To something way more serious and grounded, a hero that we can all agree on, Venom, in the pages of Separation Anxiety, #1 of 3. This is from Marvel. It's written by David Michelini, cover by Paolo Siqueira and Rochelle Rosenberg. I feel like we haven't heard from Paolo for a little while, and I really like that guy. He's good.
I do too. I loved the cover because it is an homage to Web of Spider-Man #1, which is probably one of my top 5 favorite comic book covers of all time.
And like a super iconic Spidey cover. It's
very iconic, yeah.
Art by Gerardo Sandoval, colors by Romulo Fiardo Jr., and letters by VC's Travis Lanham, our only VC gang member of the day. Here is
No. I have one in mind.
Oh, you do? Okay, good.
Yep.
Here's your solicit. Long live the King in Purple! Amazing Spider-Man legend and Venom co-creator David Michelini triumphantly returns to tell another all-new, heart-pounding, brain-eating tale set in Eddie Brock's earliest days. This time, he's teaming up with Venom and Death of the Venomverse artist extraordinaire Gerardo Sandoval. So, like, one of them is obviously a real person doing a job. The other one, Venom. Just so you all understand. Venom has made a new enemy, and their bond will be tested like never before when a foe with the power to alter reality itself threatens to tear Eddie's world apart, starting with his symbiote. First thing I noticed in this, man, Eddie talks to himself a lot. Like,
well, he's like talking to the symbiote, right?
Yes.
Is the deal.
And they're doing the thing from the movie, right? Like where he's talking to the symbiote out loud and people are looking at him. And I thought to myself, like, wait a minute, is that from the movie? No, Joe. Go back and check out Lethal Protector.
Oh, no, he does it too. He does it back then too.
Eddie was walking around
is that
just
in the
talking.
movie, we can hear the symbiote talking to Eddie.
Right.
And in the Venom comics, we never hear the symbiote talk to Eddie.
No. It's just like in his head somewhere.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
And they were trying to do this, like, where does it begin? And Eddie Brock ends. Like,
because he'll say stuff like, you're right. We did used to like working with her.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. We should give her so the symbiote's obviously talking to him, or at least in his mind.
Yeah. They just left out the Cookie Monster symbiote voice. Right. I am very hungry now, Eddie. You know, like, stop it. But this really, like, it's silly. I'm not right off the bat. Look, this is silly, but this is set in that Lethal Protector story time. And that's
I kind of want to talk about that because I'm not sure when
it's got to be around
this is supposed
there.
to take place, because
he keeps talking about justice and like fighting bullies. Like, this is prime Lethal Protector.
Just a bit of backstory. By the time Lethal Protector starts, Eddie and Spider-Man have kind of made a tentative truce. And so Eddie is no longer trying to kill Spider-Man, and fair. He moves away.
I guess I'm going to say
he moves to the West Coast.
This is probably
this takes
right.
place in New York, and Eddie still wants to kill Spider-Man.
So this is probably right before that happens. But
so yeah, it's in between like Spider-Man. It's in between Amazing Spider-Man 300 and 375.
Fair, yeah.
Because 375 was the issue that kind of sets up Lethal Protector.
But he's not full on evil or anything like that, and he's not full on good. He's still, having trouble with control. it's silly, like I said, but those stories were silly. And this is David Michelinie returning to that stuff.
We've talked about that when we have reviewed Amazing Spider-Man issues from that era in the past.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, they are very silly comics.
Right. And that's fine. And look,
but they're of a time.
This is another in those mini-series where we are revisiting that time. They don't announce it on the cover for some reason. And if they
need an imprint name,
tell us that, just give us an imprint name. And I think this is probably going to sell better, even if you do it. And I know this. Not everybody knows this.
Now, do you think they'd sell better or do you think they'd sell worse?
I think Marvel is betting on that they might sell worse.
How many people do you think are buying Venom Separation Anxiety #1 thinking, yeah, I love Venom?
Yeah.
And then not knowing it's a flashback story not set in the current Venom story.
You know what? I don't disagree with that. And the fact that he is walking around doing the movie thing, they might just be like, fuck yeah, man, that's my Venom. I get it. Yeah, totally.
But I do. The retailer in me, the longtime fan in me wishes that they would put some sort of branding on these books.
Anything.
Like DC does with Elseworlds or Black Label or even like Marvel does with the 20th Century Fox books. Like there's a label on them that lets you know what you're in for.
Or just make it a marketing thing. You open the first page and it's like, hey, if you dig this, check out Venom Lethal Protector trade paperback available now.
Yes,
Amazing
absolutely.
Spider-Man, whatever, in this trade paperback. That's where these stories come from. Market
should be doing that, yeah.
Market it, Marvel. Figure it out. Okay, I will say Sandoval, really good here.
I like the art. Yes, he's Sandoval is up and down
for me too. But I think he's doing a little more sort of 90s extreme thing here.
Yes,
and it works for his style and it works for the story. That said, I don't want to see Venom toes.
Venom does not have toes.
I don't like Venom toes. Don't draw Venom toes.
Venom's costume looks like it's got boots.
Yeah,
like Spider-Man's booties. He does not have individual toes.
Yeah.
Stop it.
But the book does look really good. And look, if Venom turning into a space god linked to an entire race of other space Venoms was too much for you, then Separation Anxiety might be just what you need. The creative team takes the story back to the Eddie and Venom days and perfectly recaptures that Lethal Protector feel with excellent art by Sandoval. But like I said, stop drawing the Venom toes. Please. I'm going to give this a strong skim it because it is an experiment that is working. But that period of Spider-Man, and not just Venom, that period of Spider-Man is not the closest, to my heart, quite honestly. So this experiment works, but your mileage may vary based on how much you like that stuff.
Yes. I agree. This is a skim it, but I thought it was okay. I liked it better than some of the other flashback books that we've read.
Definitely.
And I liked Sandoval here, and admittedly, he is an artist who I can take or leave depending on the project. I thought he fit very well with this kind of past aesthetic. It's still very much his. Yeah. But also it's very silly, the opening page has Venom, Eddie as Venom, deadlifting 8 barbells at once, all webbed together.
I mean, Venom's got to look good, right? And beach season's just around the bend.
So you know how strong the dude is, right?
Yeah. Even when he takes off the costume, Eddie's the biggest
He looks
dude.
like a truck. Right.
But
that's how McFarlane drew him.
That's true. And and there's a point where he's posing as a blind person for some reason. That gotta fit in. I would still be that is the biggest fucking blind dude I've ever seen. I did like his Venom hat, though. It had little eyes.
The Venom had eyes on it, yeah. Because the Venom hat was seeing for him.
Yeah, I guess.
This is a skim it. It's very silly, but it's fun, and the art is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knock it off with the toes. I agree.
Gross. And if you wear toe shoes, you're a pervert.
I agree with that, too. Our final review of this week is Doom #1.
Perhaps the silliest book we read this week.
Yeah, right. Doom #1 from Marvel Comics. It's written by Sanford Green and Jonathan Hickman with art by Sanford Green. Colors are by Green and Rochelle Rosenberg. Letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, leader of the VC gang.
Joey.
This one's 56 pages for $6.99, which is pretty good. I'm surprised Marvel didn't try to stretch another book out of
anything over 48, and Marvel's not afraid to put $9.99 on that shit. So.
Here's your solicit. In the near future, Doom alone must save the Marvel Universe. Legendary creators Jonathan Hickman from Ultimate Spider-Man and Gods and Sanford Green from Bitterroot send Dr. Doom on a journey unlike any he has undertaken before. With Valeria Richards at his side, Doom goes on a quest to harness more power than any human has ever wielded before in order to try to stop Galactus from bringing about the death of the universe.
Hey, props to Marvel for calling out Bitterroot and not just saying up-and-comer artist Sanford Green, like acknowledging this guy had a job elsewhere. This isn't the WWE, people do other things.
Green is a well-known independent creator.
Yeah.
So good job. And you know what? No pressure, Doom. It's just the fit of the universe we're talking about.
Sure.
Two Titanic comic talents team up for the very first time for this one shot, featuring an idea dreamt up by Sanford Green.
He is so excited, by the way.
He really is excited.
If you read his social media, and it's
like his Instagram, if you follow any of his social media, he is like stoked about this. Speaking in advance of the project's release, Hickman says, quote, Sanford and I have been waiting to work together for quite a while. So when he told me that he'd come up with an amazing Doom story and he wanted me to help out, I jumped at the chance.
And then when he told me it was 10 issues, I said, what if we did one?
Yeah. Doom #1 picks up in an alternate future, I guess, where Victor's failed attempt to stop Galactus once and for all unleashed a devourer without restraint upon an unsuspecting universe. And I said, I guess. And so that's kind of the thing you need to realize about Doom. Don't worry about it.
Let's talk about that for a second, because
just don't worry about it.
The same thing that threw us off in The Boy Wonder, when they said these characters have a baby. And you're like, no, you don't. What's going on here? There's nothing in this that couldn't be the regular Marvel universe in 2 weeks. You
could tell me that this was a story, an epilogue to Jonathan Hickman's run on Fantastic Four, and I would believe you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Or you could say this is what's happening starting next week in the pages of the next Fantastic Four.
There's nothing to contradict current continuity.
No, it's really well done.
The only one left to assist Doom is Valeria, who helps him tap into the power of creation itself to make a last-ditch effort to halt Galactus's rampage. The scope of this story is mind-bogglingly large.
It's huge.
There's a lot going on here.
It's what the Todd wants to do with Omega Spawn. Right? But he's just not quite there, And
of course, because Hickman is here to kind of assist with Green's plot, it all sounds pitch perfect. Doom sounds like Doom. Yeah. Valeria sounds like Valeria. She calls him Uncle Doom or Uncle Victor. It really does feel like an extension of his run on the Fantastic Four.
I've always really liked that relationship too, Valeria and Doom.
Me too.
I've always liked that relationship.
Almost like he's a godfather or like my dad's best friend who we're very close with, that kind of thing. Sanford Green and Rochelle Rosenberg's art is an explosion of ink and color that somehow takes shape to form a coherent story.
Yeah.
There's so much power and scale packed into every panel on every page. Now, if you look at this book, if you break down each page, it will sometimes break down into a dozen tiny panels.
Right.
And it's all packed with just the most gorgeous story-driven artwork. It's a Jack Kirby fever dream almost.
Yeah. So Felix Comic Art represents him, and they were putting up some pictures on Instagram just saying we got exciting news because they're going to be selling these pages, and people in the comments were just yelling out numbers, and I'm pretty sure they were bidding like $1 million, I'll pay $1 billion, just freaking out. That's how good this looks.
There are some artists where, they're very good at what they do, and they're very good at making their artwork look a certain way, but you do find out in the long run that they work digitally, and so there's nothing really to show for it in the long run.
Not Sanford Green.
There's nothing to sell or collect from it. It's just like it's a digital artifact. Sanford Green's art looks like it's still wet.
Yeah.
And not in a gross way, but it's like it looks like he just picked up the brush.
Yeah, not in a Monolith kind of way, but yeah.
No. He just took the
I swear I'm done. I'm sorry, Monolith. I swear I'm done.
Yeah. He laid down the last stroke, picked up the brush, and now we're reading it. Is how it looks.
Yeah, he's one of those artists that knows when to quit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like lays it down and it looks completely spazzed out, but it's well thought out. And just before it's too much, he stops.
Right. And one thing to note, like Junie Ba's art in The Boy Wonder, Green's work is highly stylized.
Yeah.
So don't come into this looking for traditional superhero art because you're not going to find it.
Ain't no Jim Lee. No.
No, it's not. It ain't no Jim Lee. The most frustrating thing about Doom #1 is that it's seemingly just a one shot and it doesn't have anything to do with anything.
I find that hard to believe.
I don't. I think that Sanford Green was excited and he told his friend about this idea and Jonathan Hickman said, Marvel, we are doing this and you're going to publish it.
Yeah, but Marvel. I don't think they do something like this.
What does it tie to? It doesn't tie to the current Doctor Doom anything.
I don't disagree, but I don't think Marvel does something like this with Jonathan Hickman's name attached that they're not going to weave into something else. Be it Fantastic Four.
Time will tell. I guess we'll see.
Doom. Yeah, there's too much here. And they're referencing stuff like the Maker from the Ultimate Universe is pictured
They
here.
did drop a Maker
and
reference,
things that were going on in the regular Marvel U. So I think there's stuff that's happening.
We'll see. We will see. The setup to the story is that everybody's dead except for Doom and Valeria.
Right.
So I don't know how it's going to.
Big deal, man. We saw Thor get his head, punched.
Yeah, no, you're right, Matt. You're right. You might be right. You might be right. But regardless, this is a one shot. There is not going to be a Doom #2.
I agree.
I would kill to see more of this or something very much like it. I'm giving this a buy it. It is breathtaking.
Yeah, this is stupendous. I don't know what else to call it. It was fan-fucking-tastic. And just let these guys write Doom. Just let them write Doom. Give me a Doom mini. I don't need an ongoing that runs 300 issues, but give me a Doom mini that shows me either how we got here or what happens afterwards. Huge buy it. We're going to see more of this. I don't know if it's this team.
You know what?
I don't know if it's just Sanford Green.
I'll make a nerd bet.
All right.
You say that something will come of this down the line, and
I'll shorten it. This year, we're going to see something. That's
how involved are we talking? Like just like a passing reference or a direct?
No, something that either leads to what we're seeing
development
here or spins out of what happened here. Yes.
And then and my side of the bet is this is just something fun that Hickman wants to do with his friend.
Yeah, I don't trust Marvel to do that. They squeeze every cent they can out of this stuff. So we'll see.
Nerd bet on. You can find links on our show notes for more details about these comics. And of course, we are talking about them on our Discord. I had a fun little post about Venom separation anxiety where Eddie gets a hankering for tacos. But now it's time to pick the comic from this pile that touched our deep spawn the deepest to add to the THN permanent collection Map Bomb. What's your pick?
We both are going to pick Doom, dude. That book was just...
I don't know, man. I'm really torn between Doom and The Boy Wonder.
I'm going to pick Doom because it was just such a breakout for Sanford Green, and he's so excited about it. And the book was just fucking awesome, and the ideas in it were great. I mean, you've heard us squealing about it. It's Doom for me.
Okay. All right. That's fair. You pick Doom. I'll pick The Boy Wonder. It's one collection.
I love it.
One book from this week, one book from last week, two outstanding comic books that are huge, two exceptional pieces of art that address current continuity and past continuity, but aren't beholden to it. You can pick it up and read it regardless, and you should.
Yeah, two creators just shining. Time to head up to THN Sanctum Sanctorum to make our must-read picks for next new comic day, May 22nd. Here is a preview of what your LCS will be stocking next week. Because you demanded it, Archie becomes a demon hunter in the pages of Archie Comics. Judgment Day, #1.
Great.
Scott Snyder and Francesco Francavilla re-team for White Boat at Distillery. It looks sexy. And Joe will be thrilled to hear that Colt Brass, a.k.a. the Werecat Hexpaw, rekindles his affair with the witch Ginger Beer's district attorney. I don't know if she's a witch and a district attorney, or she's a district attorney that just happens to be a witch. I was hoping you could clear that up.
I think she's a district attorney that happens to be a witch.
Don't act like you don't know, Joe. He needs her influence, and she needs his lovin'. And Joe loves her because she's totally stacked. You can read about it in the pages of Hexpaw, Left Paw of the Devil, #4. Joe Patrick.
Is this a real thing, or is this something you made up?
No. Don't act like you don't know, you sweet bastard. Come on.
Okay.
Joe, did you ever get that Ginger Beer sketch from Hexpaw artist Trevor Marquardt? And what is your
I
pick
swear to God you made that
for
up.
next week?
Trevor Marquardt?
No, dude. This is all real. This is 100% real.
Quick aside, when Matt and I worked at Krypton, we used to keep track of the back issues that sold on little Post-it notes because this was before God invented computers.
UPC codes are for chumps.
Right, yeah. So we would write down the name and issue number of a comic, tape it to the bag and board, and then when it sold, we'd peel it off. And Matt would leave fake comics in the stack of yellow tags, like Insane Adventures of the Blowjob Gorillas #74. Yeah, so I wouldn't put it past him to make something like that up. My pick for next week is Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider, #1 from Marvel Comics. One of these days, they're going to be able to just call it Ghost Spider, but she's still Spider-Gwen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's written by Stephanie Phillips. It's got art by Federica Mancine. It's 40 pages for $4.99, and here's your solicit. Trapped in the 616 for good. Welcome to New York. Gwen truly becomes a ghost spider when she moves full-time to the universe where Gwen Stacy died years ago. But why did she leave Earth 65? Why aren't the other spiders supposed to know she's here? Why isn't she supposed to suit up? And who will get hurt when she does?
No, she left Earth 65 because she got knocked up with, the Green Goblin's baby, and she had to get out of there, like bad shit going on, right? I mean, come on.
No, I don't think that's the story. No.
Yeah.
I've wanted to like a Spider-Gwen series for a long time, and I've tried, and it's just never really clicked with me. But I like Stephanie Phillips, and I think the fact that she's moving full-time to the main Marvel universe is going to help. And so we'll see.
I think it's about goddamn time. If they're going to keep trying to do the Spider-Gwen stuff, then do it in the regular Marvel U, or guess
I understand why she started in an alternate universe. That was kind of the whole point.
I guess. But, I mean, look, if you want it to sell and you want it to count, make it friggin' count. All right? And they're going.
It's like Gwenpool. Gwenpool has to be, like, bring Gwenpool into the current universe, put her in the West Coast Avengers.
No.
I mean, that's what they did, right? But that is what they did. They brought Gwenpool over, and then she became a character in the main universe. That's what they needed to do with Ghost Spider, and now they're doing it.
My pick for next week is Blood Squad 7, #1 from Image. It's written by Joe Casey with art by Paul Fry. 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. Series premiere! Thanks, Image. 30 years ago, Blood Squad 7 was America's most popular superhero team. Its members were seen on television, on magazine covers, scoring million-dollar endorsement deals. They were celebrities, and they were everywhere. But that was then. This is now. And so a new generation of modern-day heroes take up the mantle, or perhaps the poison chalice, fulfilling a promise made decades ago to be the heroes that a fractured America needs. While deconstructions of superhero nostalgia typically center around classic characters of the Silver Age, Blood Squad 7 will delve deep into 90s comic book themes, with this imagining out of what would happen if heroes from that decade returned to action after a 30-year absence.
Oh, I love that.
Man, I wish they could do this with Youngblood. God, I wish they could do this with Youngblood. But Rob Liefeld famously gave away the rights. He may have been taken advantage of it. The whole thing, not the point. This is absolutely supposed to be Youngblood. And Joe Casey having fun with, okay, here's an entire Youngblood mythology that never happened, that we're just going to reinvent, And here's their logical conclusion. Where is Youngblood in 2024? Brilliant.
I love it.
And nobody better than Joe Casey to do this. Come on.
Totally.
Love it.
I love the title. Sounds like the name of the fake pilot that Mia Wallace started in Pulp Fiction, Fox Force 5.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I think that's great.
Blood guard blood. You know, like, okay.
Yeah. The THN trade of the week is Deep Cuts. It's a trade paperback from Image Comics. It's written by Kyle Higgins and Joe Stark, with art by Ramon Perez and Various. It's 320 pages for $24.99. Wow. That is a beefy boy.
Yeah.
Here's your solicit. New Orleans, 1917. A clarinet player meets his hero. Kansas City, 1940. A young girl investigates the mystery of her father's lost love of music. Los Angeles, 1977. A band embarks on a world tour that may be their last. Writers Kyle Higgins and Joe Clark of Radiant Black are joined by an all-star cast of artists for an anthology of stories that weave tales of struggle, joy, and hope through the history of jazz. This collects Deep Cuts 1 through 6. Now, Matt, a short while ago, I picked Swan Songs for the THN trade of the week. And you're like, why did you pick Swan Songs? And then we read the description and ended up thinking it sounded good. I picked Swan Songs because I thought it was this.
Okay. That makes more sense.
You reviewed Deep Cuts #1 on the show.
Yeah,
and we raved about it.
I went on to keep reading Deep Cuts, and it is incredible.
And yeah, so this is the collection of the entire series, 320 pages for $25. Like, this is a lot of story. Kyle Higgins is great. Joe Stark is great. Ramon Perez draws the first one. The list of artists involved is also stellar. Like, check this book out.
Well, this is Kyle Higgins stepping out and saying, like, look, I'm not just the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers guy.
I'm not, yeah, right.
Like,
exactly.
I can do this as well. And it is fantastic. It's so
he's
good.
clearly a connoisseur of the art form.
He's a music nerd.
And it shows
No question.
through with his story.
So what are you nerds reading next week? We are always talking about new comics on our Discord. We got a new comics channel. We got a back issues channel. In fact, yeah, it's a comic themed Discord. It's a comic themed show. You get it. But be sure to add these comics to your pull list if you want to read along with us, because we are going to review them on the next new comic show.
Before we misfile this episode in the cover-to-cover back issue section, it's time for a sneak peek at our Patreon Extra. You'll get access to amazing, high-quality, life-changing content just like this when you support THN for as little as $1 per month.
I figured when you were old enough, I'd talk to you about
Comic books.
tell you to stay away from the garbage that pushes that junk.
I'm so high! Nothing can hurt me! No!
Congratulations, kids. You made it to the best part of the show. The part that we don't give away for free. This is the part
Stop
we
it.
actually work on. Because
Stop saying stuff like that.
Screw all these free listeners. They don't do anything for us. But you are a nerd of the first order.
The script for this entire segment is cut and pasted from the internet.
That is
Don't act
right.
like we worked at it.
Patron, and we appreciate it. Without you, we don't have a show. These other nerds, whatever. Who even cares? Today, the Comic Pushers return. If you don't know what the Comic Pushers are, that's when that's sort of like Gangster Joe, Gangster Matt. We go out on the streets and we look for kids begging for comics or vulnerable people, you know, they're like, I need something to fill that hole in my life. We're like, hey, come here, kid. And we bring them into the alley and then we open.
You're talking about drug dealers, man.
Yes. And then we open our trench coats and they're full of comics. We're like, what you looking for? I got everything
Dicks.
you need, right?
Dick naked. We open those trench coats and we're dick naked.
No, that's a different thing. That's a
Lined
totally
with
different
drugs.
thing. We are going to talk about dicks today, though. We're going to get into it. Different kind of dick.
In a way.
Different kind of dick. So today, Griffin Peterson, a new member of our Discord, welcome aboard, Griffin, asks, I recently started watching the first season of True Detective on Max. Okay, well, I hope you're not in a good mood, Griffin. And I was wondering if anyone had suggestions for great detective mystery comics. So, Joe Patrick, we both kind of agreed. We're going to keep it straight detective mystery. We're going to take our superhero brains out of this one.
Well, I mean, he did not specifically say no superheroes, and there were certainly superhero adjacent stories I considered, but yeah, I went with pure mystery comics, the comics that featured people doing some detective work, whether they are literally detectives or not. Also, it was very important to not just pick crime books, which is why you won't find any Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips stuff on here.
Although there was 2 detective books they did that we totally forgot about that could have made this list.
Well, I mean, they've done stuff in the vicinity, certainly, but a lot of their stuff is really more like just like crime. Like also like the Parker graphic novels, which I love, they don't really qualify.
Well, we don't need to go into the stuff that doesn't qualify. Let's talk about the stuff that does. What do you say?
No, I'm just saying I'm making the distinction.
Right. So what do you got first for our friend Griffin?
But thanks for correcting me in front of the paying customers.
Hey, no problem. I mean, look, I'm just trying to keep this quality up, okay? Because they pay for this shit, Joe. All right.
Yeah. My first pick is Torso, which originally came out from Image Comics. It came out in the very, very late 90s, like 1999, 2000-ish.
This is a lot of our first brushes with BMB, right?
In fact, one of the first, yes. Yeah. It came out originally from Image. Now its home is at Dark Horse because, BMB has moved his library around, which is his wont as a famous creator with a library of books. Written by, as we hinted, Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Andreyko. So co-written. Art by Brian Michael Bendis. Not a lot of people remember that Bendis used to be the artist on most of his projects.
He wanted to be an artist more than he wanted to be a writer. He says back in interviews, he's like, I never planned to be a writer. I wanted to be a comic book artist.
Well, I guess
stick to the writing, Brian.
I mean, look, it's not that his art is bad. No, he's a much better writer than he ever was.
Stronger writer than he is artist.
Yes. Here's your solicit, and then we'll kind of go into what we think about it. Cleveland, 1935. Elliot Ness, fresh from his legendary Chicago triumph over Al Capone and Associates, set his sights on Cleveland. He went on a crusade that matched and sometimes even surpassed his past accomplishments. But dismembered body parts started washing up in a concentrated area of Lake Erie Sound. Headless torsos that left no clues to their identity or reason for death. Elliot Ness and his colorful gang of the Unknowns, they just can't resist giving his little group a nickname, chased this killer through the underbelly of Cleveland for years, and as far as the public was concerned, he was never captured. But what really happened is even more shocking.
Excelsior! Oh.
That is it for THN 742. If you dig our new comic reviews, check out our YouTube channel. There, you can subscribe to each show separately. We got a back issue show. We got a gang hang. It's great. Or you can listen to them as podcasts on YouTube Music. Of course, we want you to subscribe to the show wherever you download podcasts as well. Next week, the back issue show returns. It's time to finish the dirty deed we started with part 2 of our Slack issues read, Rise of the Midnight Suns. I have terrible news. And it doesn't get any clearer.
Right. If you thought maybe the back half of the book was going to be better, you're in for a treat.
Hold on to your butts. If you need more THN in the meantime, join us for the THN Gang Hang Saturdays, 11 o'clock Central. Check out our Discord for details. Joe Patrick, what else can listeners do at our Discord?
Real quick, speaking of the Gang Hang, somebody posted a very thorough breakdown of his thoughts about last week's Gang Hang. Somebody that I don't know.
Oh, nice. On YouTube?
And so, good on you, mystery dude. And we hope you keep listening.
Was it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Yeah, you can go read it now.
I'll check it out.
On our Discord, you can join in the speculation about who Natasha Lyonne is playing in the Fantastic Four movie. My money is on Roberta, the robo-receptionist.
I got $1,000 on Aunt Petunia. You watch.
What, like a flashback? She's not old enough to be Aunt Petunia.
Yeah. See, she can do old. Are you kidding me? She's got the voice already. Give me a break.
Yeah, she can do
Hollywood, Joe. Come on.
Maybe she plays She-Thing. Okay. Sharon Ventura. She-Thing.
One can only
That's
hope.
a deep cut. You can let people know that you knew Matt Baum back when he used to be a cool rock star just like me.
I was never a
You
rock.
can share. Yeah, it was very adorable seeing people discover your rock and roll past this
all
week.
right.
It was very heartening.
Okay, come on.
Be proud of it,
I'm
Matt.
still in therapy about it. Let's keep moving. All right.
Okay. Share your excitement for the upcoming Lady Death video game.
I heard it's
Now
super
on
challenging. You
Kickstarter.
got to go find a bra that fits, and that is way harder than you think.
Yeah. It's not like a chop 'em up,
I thought just
fight
snap
monsters
'em
game.
on.
It's
My wife says it's a whole thing.
Or maybe you just want to answer the question of the week. This week's question: what are your favorite summer blockbusters of yore that are not comic book movies? And which ones are you excited for in 2024?
Yeah.
This is inspired, of course, by the upcoming releases of Furiosa and the Planet of the Apes movie.
Well, I mean, we got no Marvel movie. We got no DC movie this summer. So
Marvel movie's not out until way later.
Yeah, we gotta get excited for something.
Classic summer blockbusters that have nothing to do with comics. There's been a lot of great talk about that in our Discord already.
Nice.
Please keep your question of the week suggestions coming. As the name implies, we do ask one every week. You can sign up for our Discord with the link at twoheadednerd.com/Discord, and once you're allowed in, we have a firm no jerks allowed policy. You can post about any of our segments, or if you don't dig on the Discord, you can send an MP3 submission for the Comic Pushers, for Ask a Nerd, or whatever to twoheadednerd@gmail.com, and we will put you on the show. That's not an idle threat, you guys. I know we haven't done it in a long time, but if you send us an audio request, like, dear Comic Pushers, I want to know more about the Spectre, or what have you.
We're going to put you on the show.
We'll play that shit on the show.
We're going to make fun of you, too. If you are new to this show and you wish you could go back in time just a few minutes ago and tear your younger self's head off for downloading it, I assure you it's only because you haven't heard enough. Good news is you can hear the entire run of THN in our digital longbox archive at twoheadednerd.com. THN is a listener-supported podcast. It would not be possible without the generosity of donors like our newest patron, Tim Benson, who, little known fact, a monstrous monster of a man who made good, redeemed himself, and now, unlike our boy Monolith, Tim found the right way, and he's donating to the show.
He took the right path.
He took the right path.
I could have sworn that he'd been donating for years, but here we are.
Maybe he stopped and came back. Doesn't matter. If you like what you hear every week, it's easy to support the show. You can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/twoheadednerd.
It's kind of adorable because he's listening to ancient THN extras and then asking questions on the Discord completely removed from context.
That's
and I'm like,
great.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I can't remember. I don't
He's like,
know.
When you said this about Fall of the Mutants, you forgot about this, this, and this. And I'm like, what? We talked about Fall of the Mutants? Before we go, our weekly shout out goes to our long-time listener, love slave, and friend, Ryan Hebrews Mount, who turned the ripe old age of 39 today. That dude's not even young enough, not even old enough to cut him in half and count his rings.
You got one more good year, friend. Bad news.
Yeah.
40. It's all fucking downhill.
Word to you, birthday boy. Hope you survived the experience.
Until next time, true relievers, remember to pre-order your comics or your retailer might just roll over in bed on your 40th birthday and tell you to take a hike. Leo style, right? I mean, they just wait a little longer. It's not 25.
Oh, yeah.
It's 40, and you're too old, Hebrews. Get out of here. This is the Two-Headed Nerd, signing off.